Have you ever heard that you can predict winter by looking at pine cones? It's a curious idea, one that's been whispered from one generation to the next, especially in rural communities where people have always looked to nature for answers. It's an old idea, passed down for generations. Grandparents would share it with their grandchildren, and neighbors would swap stories over fences or at the local market. The saying goes, if pine cones grow high up on a pine tree, a cold, snowy winter is coming. The higher the cones, the harsher the winter, or so the legend claims. People once believed trees could sense and prepare for harsh weather, almost as if the forest itself could predict the future. This is folklore. Traditional beliefs and stories shared by communities before modern science. These tales were a way to make sense of the unpredictable world around them. Before weather satellites and computer models, people relied on nature for clues. The sky, the wind, and the trees were their guides. They watched birds, animals, and plants, searching for patterns to help them prepare for the seasons. Every movement and change in the forest could be a hint about what was coming. The pine cone was just one of many natural signs. People also looked at the thickness of animal fur, the migration of birds, and the color of autumn leaves. People thought if they could read these signs, they could get ready for winter, chop more firewood, store more food, and make sure their families would be safe and warm. It's a romantic idea, the tree, in its wisdom, lifting its seeds high to protect them from snow. It paints a picture of nature as a wise guardian, always looking out for the next generation. These stories make nature feel magical and connected. They remind us of a time when people felt deeply in tune with the world around them. But is this belief actually true? Does science support it, or is it just a charming myth that stood the test of time? As we explore, we'll look at what science says about pine cones and weather. We'll examine the evidence and see if there's any truth behind the tale. We'll dive into the life of a pine tree and why it produces cones, exploring the fascinating biology behind these iconic seeds. We'll see if cone position has anything to do with the coming winter, or if it's simply part of the tree's natural cycle. Science is about evidence, testing ideas to see if they hold up. It's about asking questions and searching for real answers. So, let's investigate. Are pine cones secret weather forecasters, or just a beautiful part of a tree's life cycle? What can we really learn from them? Let's separate what we believe from what we can prove, and discover the real story behind this old wives' tale. Ready to find out? Let's begin our journey into the world of pine cones and the secrets they might hold. The idea that pine cones can predict the coming winter is rooted in a long tradition of observing the natural world. For generations, people have looked to the forests and fields for clues about what the seasons might bring. For centuries, before the advent of modern science and technology, communities depended on reading subtle signs in their environment to survive and thrive. Without weather forecasts or scientific instruments, people relied on their own experience, careful observation, and the wisdom passed down from elders. They noticed patterns in animal behavior, like squirrels gathering more nuts before a harsh winter, or birds migrating earlier than usual. These observations became rules of thumb, forming the backbone of what we now call traditional ecological knowledge, and were shared from one generation to the next. People saw connections everywhere: the thickness of onion skins, the direction and formation of geese in flight, even the height of hornet nests in the trees. The position of pine cones on trees was just one piece of this intricate puzzle, a single sign among many. These beliefs offered comfort and a sense of control in an unpredictable world, helping families feel prepared for whatever nature might bring. If an elder declared that high pine cones meant a tough winter ahead, people took action, chopping extra wood, mending roofs, and storing more food. Whether or not the sign was truly accurate mattered less than the sense of readiness and community it inspired. Folklore grows from a mix of careful observation, coincidence, and our deep human need to find patterns in the world around us. Maybe one year, high pine cones and a blizzard happened together, and the story took root in the community's memory. Over time, the connection felt stronger, reinforced by stories and memories, even if it was just a matter of chance. This is how a simple observation, repeated and retold, can grow into a widely held belief that shapes how people live. Folklore is wisdom from the woods, a living tradition that has guided people through the uncertainties of nature for countless generations. To find out if pine cones can really predict winter, let's dig into what's actually happening with these fascinating parts of the tree. First, we need to understand what a pine cone is and why it exists in the first place. Pine cones are the reproductive organs of pine trees. Their main job is to protect and eventually release seeds, ensuring the next generation of trees. There are actually two types: male cones, which are smaller and produce pollen, and female cones, which are the familiar woody ones that hold seeds. You might notice cones growing high up or lower down on the tree, but this isn't a clever trick to prepare for the coming winter. Where cones grow is determined by where female flowers develop, which depends on factors like how much sunlight a branch gets, how old it is, and the overall health of the tree. The upper branches usually get the most sunlight and energy, so it's common to see more cones growing at the top of the tree. All of this is about the tree's biology and growth patterns, not about predicting the weather. Pine trees also produce cones in cycles, a phenomenon called masting. Some years you'll see trees loaded with cones, while in other years there are only a few. These cycles are influenced by how much energy the tree has stored up, and by environmental conditions from previous years, not by what the next winter will bring. For instance, if the tree had a great growing season last year, it might have enough resources to produce more cones this year. So, the number and placement of cones you see are really a record of the tree's past experiences, not a forecast of the future. In the end, pine cones are a window into the health and history of the tree, not a crystal ball for the weather. The science is clear. Pine cones tell a story about biology and the environment, not about what the next season will bring. Pine cones can open and close. Have you noticed? On dry days, cones open wide. On wet days, they close tight. This isn't magic, it's nature's engineering. Each cone scale has two layers, a stiff outer and a flexible inner. When it's dry, the outer layer shrinks, pulling the scale outward and opening the cone. This helps the wind carry seeds away on dry, breezy days. If it's wet, the inner layer expands, closing the cone to protect seeds from moisture. The cone acts like a natural hygrometer, reacting to humidity. So, a closed cone means damp air, an open cone means dry air. It's a reaction to current conditions, not a prediction of future weather. The idea that cones forecast rain or snow is a misunderstanding. They respond to humidity, not to what's coming next. It's a fascinating adaptation, but not a crystal ball. Pine cones tell us about the present, not the future. So, do high pine cones mean a snowy winter? Science says no, there's no proven link. Cone placement is about tree health, age, and sunlight, not weather. Trees don't sense future conditions, they respond to past ones. A good growing season leads to more cones, regardless of the coming winter. If a harsh winter follows, it's coincidence, not cause. Studies show no statistical correlation between cone position and winter severity. The belief persists because of confirmation bias. We remember when the prediction seems right, and forget when it's wrong. High cones mean the tree was healthy and had a good year. It's a sign of the tree's success, not a weather forecast. The real story is about the tree's past and present. We can appreciate pine cones for their biology, not their supposed magic. Science is often more amazing than folklore. Pine cones aren't the only weather predictors in folklore. People have looked to squirrels, corn husks, bees, and even spider webs for clues. The logic is similar. Animals and plants supposedly sense what's coming and prepare. But science shows these behaviors reflect current or past conditions, not the future. Squirrels gather more nuts when there are more available, not because they know a harsh winter is coming. Thick corn husks depend on the variety and growing season, not future cold. These are stories, not science, examples of our search for patterns in nature. They're fascinating traditions, but not reliable forecasts. The woolly bear caterpillar is perhaps the most famous animal forecaster. Folklore says the width of its brown band predicts winter wide means mild, narrow means harsh. Some towns even celebrate with woolly bear festivals. The science? Early studies were small and inconclusive. More thorough research shows the caterpillar's color reflects its age and the conditions it experienced growing up, not the coming winter. As it molts, the brown band widens. Older caterpillars have wider bands. Weather during its growth can affect coloration, but not future weather. The stripes tell a story about the past, not the future. Like pine cones, people assign predictive meaning to natural variation. It's a fun tradition, and a way to connect with nature. But it's not a reliable way to plan for winter. Enjoy the folklore, but trust the science. If pine cones and caterpillars can't predict winter, how do scientists do it? They use powerful tools and data, focusing on large-scale climate patterns. One of the most important is the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. ENSO has 3 phases: El Niño, warmer Pacific waters; La Niña, cooler, and neutral. These ocean temperature changes affect weather worldwide, including North America's winter. The ocean and atmosphere interact, shifting the jet stream and guiding storms. El Niño often brings wetter, cooler weather to the southern U.S., and warmer, drier weather up north. La Niña flips the pattern. By monitoring Pacific temperatures, scientists can forecast general winter trends months ahead. It's not perfect, but it's far more reliable than folklore. Folklore connects us to our past and teaches us to observe nature, but it's not a reliable way to predict the future. Science, built on data and testing, gives us real forecasting power. Scientists use satellites, ocean buoys, and supercomputers to model the climate. These tools let us predict weather patterns weeks or months in advance. As technology improves, so do our forecasts. Science is a continuous process of learning and refining. Forecasts are based on probability and evidence, not guesswork. So, next time you see a pine cone, appreciate its design and biology. Marvel at how it responds to humidity and reflects the tree's life. For a real look into the future, trust the scientists and their tools. The story of the pine cone is about nature's wonders, not weather prediction. Science is our best tool for understanding the world.